Okay, so welcome everyone to our training today. I'm so excited to have you with me. I'll start sharing my screen and we can dig right in. Today's training is Instant Insights. You've already got the data. Now learn 3 ways to use it to earn more. So I'll start with some quick introductions. I also want to be able to see everything here on my screen. Got to get that set up right. Okie doke. So I'll start out with an introduction of myself. I'm Becca Brown. I'm the founder and CEO of Uppercase Industries. We are a consumer insights and marketing strategy company. I'm also joined by Dave Okenquist, who is our research lead on the team. He's in the chat today, helping me to make sure we see everything from all you lovely participants. And at Uppercase, we guide clients through a simple insights gathering process to help them cultivate an intimate knowledge of their customers in a short amount of time. And then we use what we learn to craft strategies that really work. We like to think we're awesome at what we do because we're driven by a genuine curiosity for humankind. We just love figuring out what makes people tick. I'm also kind of on a personal level, I'm a Vermonter. I'm an obsessive cook and gardener. And as you can see here, mom to 2 charming kiddos who are actually have grown up a lot since this photo. I love helping other entrepreneurs grow their businesses in a way that lets them improve the world with what they do or make, while simultaneously fueling their personal dreams. So I'm really on a crusade against burnout and overworking, and really all about figuring out strategies that help clients, get away from their desk sometimes and live their lives. So I just want to take take a second to encourage you all to tune in. Turn your phone over, which I'm going to do right now, which I did not do yet, and make sure that's turned off or stashed in the next room. Close your tabs, grab a notebook and a pen. I encourage everyone to grab a beverage. I have 2 beverages. I am rolling with water and tea today. And I'll be asking questions throughout. So just quick housekeeping, please make sure you have that chat box open and visible, and feel free to add some questions as we go along. I have one shameless ask, which I'll just get right out there and say, I love to, expand our reach beyond those of you who are here today. So if you're up for it and you're active on social media, go ahead and screenshot whatever your favorite part of the workshop ends up being, and give me a tag at Beck Brown on Instagram. So thanks in advance for that. And I'd love for everybody to chime in and introduce yourself. So there's 3 things that I'd love for you to share in the chat, and just make sure that your chat is set to everyone and not a direct message. So go ahead and share where you're logging in from, where in the world, what you're hoping to learn today, and what business or industry you are in. So I'll give you a second to write that in. And while we're doing that, we'll go ahead and look at the agenda for what we're going to be covering today. So we're going to talk about the framework that we use at Uppercase for guiding our ideas around how businesses can best grow. We'll cover 3 places I always look for consumer data, along with a case study for each one on how you might use it. And we'll talk about unlocking your audience, which is our program at Uppercase for getting you there and implementing these techniques. And then we'll end with a Q&A. Quick reminder to go ahead and introduce yourself there in the chat. I recognize a few of you from previous sessions, so I'm excited to see you back. So I love a Venn diagram, and I show this one in almost every workshop that I do because I think it's so helpful in really illuminating how your brand connects you to your customer. So a lot of us as entrepreneurs spend, and people who start our business because we're passionate about what we do, spend most of our time in this green section, which is your brand values. I also kind of put like your passion and your inspiration behind starting your business in this green circle. But these other 2 circles are also very key to success. So in the blue circle, we have the business opportunity. And that's just making sure you're in a place that can support your business, has the population that you need, and you have a way to get customers in the door. And then in the orange circle is where we're going to be spending most of our time today. That's all about the human need or challenge that you're addressing. And so I love to use an example of a vintage shop to bring this to life a little bit. So let's say you are a passionate, collector and curator of vintage clothing, and you happen to be obsessed with the 50s as your, decade of interest. But you do carry clothes from other decades too. So, covering on the blue circle, the business opportunity, you need to make sure that your shop is in a place on a street that is not next to three other vintage shops and is in a town that is large enough, if you're depending on foot traffic to support your business. So that kind of covers blue circle on the left there. The human need or challenge is where a lot of times as business owners, we miss out on because we kind of get blinders based on the things that we are so passionate about in the first place that, inspired us to start our companies. So back to that example of a vintage shop owner who's obsessed with clothes from the 50s, if your customer over here loves vintage just as much as you do, but they love clothes from the 70s and they're all about like that old, Rolling Stones t-shirt vintage look, you're going to be in trouble. So you need to understand where the things that you're most passionate about and love talking about and build your marketing around overlap with what your customers actually want from you and are interested in hearing from you about. So that's where those circles overlap, and that's why this is so key. And let's see, we have a few folks who have gone ahead and introduced themselves, so I'll take a minute to look at that. We have Daniel coming from Mexico originally, but Brooklyn, and you have La New Yorkina. I remember you from a previous session. I'm so excited to have you back again. Lots of delicious treats from La New Yorkina available in Brooklyn. If you're nearby, I am due to visit New York City, so I'll certainly be seeing you when I'm there. And then we have Elizabeth King from Vermont, logging in from Jericho, and hoping to learn how to pay attention to the data you've already got and facilitate some collection of information. She's a baker and a cook. Awesome, that's so excited. And then Daniel is hoping to learn how to engage customers better. Awesome, we can definitely cover off on both of those today. Thanks for sharing. If you haven't introduced yourself in the chat, please go ahead and do that. It's very fun to see where everyone is coming from. All right, moving right along. And so a quote that I love that kind of gets back to that by a coach that I follow and admire. Her name's Rachel Rogers. She says, geek out with your peers and not your customers. So when we're in that moment where we're like deep into, if we have, the two folks who introduced themselves so far are cooks, like deep into the nitty gritty of a recipe and like why a particular flour is working and getting so into those details. That's something that's great to do with your fellow food-based business owners, but not with your customers. They likely want a message that is much simpler and much more surface level, to just understand how the delicious food that you make is going to be incorporated into their life or improve their life or help them achieve some sort of goal. So it was really interesting as I was getting ready for today and talking to a lot of folks about the material that we're covering. The topic of confidence around numbers came up a lot. And so I'm curious to hear from the group here if you consider yourself more data averse and you don't love diving into numbers and it kind of gives you the heebie-jeebies, or if you're a spreadsheet junkie and you maybe even spend too much time on the analysis side and just can't get enough of it. So go ahead and tell us which kind of camp you fall in today. I imagine that it is a mix of both. And so something that really surprised me in this lead up and this preparation, and the discussion that came up around it, was a dear friend of mine, somebody who I consider one of the smartest women I know. She has founded and sold a company advised multiple companies, went to Harvard. She said to me, I consider myself somebody who isn't good at math. And I was shocked to hear that. And because to me, she seems so capable and competent in that area, and I never would have guessed that. But it just goes to show that I think we all come to the table with some baggage when it comes to numbers, and they're not always necessarily just figures on a computer. So, we'll just kind of hold that in our minds as we go through this. And thanks for chiming in, Natalie and Elizabeth. You are saying that you love numbers, but it can be difficult to know if you're interpreting them correctly. Totally. Yeah, you have to have kind of that guidance of, am I doing the right thing here? Or is there another way I should look at that number? And then Elizabeth it's more about finding the time to analyze your numbers. Yeah, a lot of us are sort of in a world of shoulds when it comes to the numbers around our businesses. We know we should look at them. We know we should have systems for it. We know we could learn things, but it just doesn't all come together because we're busy, packing orders and making our products. So I'm not here to convert you from kind of one camp or another. Everyone, whether you don't like numbers or you do, you can get something out of this. We're here to kind of build some confidence and learn new ways of thinking about your business metrics that do feel enjoyable, that even can feel creative, and also go beyond just those figures and facts and start to become human as you think about them. So diving right into our juicy material today, we're going to be really focusing on data that has to do with learning about your audience. And, I have an MBA, there's a million metrics that we learned about in that process that we can dive into. Every business has their own unique numbers, but I'm simplifying it for the purposes of this training and focusing in on the 3 places I often look first when working with clients. And Daniel says he's a spreadsheet junkie too. Okay, great. Well, you are in good company here. So the first one is your website. And again, within a website, whether it's your Google Analytics or whatever other analytics tool you're using to analyze, you can pick from hundreds of metrics. These are a few I recommend focusing in on and just sort of seeing where it takes you. First step is to identify your top 10 most visited pages. So this may be revealing in terms of, let's say you have some best-selling products, and then you take a look at this and the pages for other products that don't perform as well are rating higher than those other ones. So that tells you a little bit of the story. That says maybe there's something stopping people from buying those products. Or let's say you have a great blog on your website and you just never looked at what the top 10 topics are. This will give you some insight into what type of information your customer is coming to you for. That's what they're sort of identifying as your sweet spot, and what information they're looking to you in particular for. So the chances are the top pages on your site, you can also look at the most clicked buttons, will give you intel on what people care about most. And you can really use what you learn to improve your message. Also, you can use what you learn to make design improvements on your site. If there is a call to action that's really critical for your company and it's not getting the visits or the clicks, or a page that describes something that you're really proud about and kind of want to make sure folks get eyes on, that says, hey, I need to reprioritize how this is laid out, or I need to make sure I am out on my social media pages talking about that topic to help drive that traffic to the website. So that is the first one. Has anyone, I'm really curious here if anyone knows, happens to know, like off the top of your head, what your 10 most visited pages are. It can be very surprising. This is a great exercise to do once a quarter or even once a year. It will be really revealing. And I have a case study for you. This was a wellness blogger who we kind of went on a hunt for patterns with. And that's what I want you to be looking for when you're looking at those top 10 pages. So again, if you are mostly, if your site is kind of like a product catalog, so to speak, what kind of pattern emerges? Like, let's say you sell, again, let's use the vintage clothing analogy, and you have clothing from all kinds of decades. So is one decade popping up in the top 10 searches? That tells you something important. Is one type of apparel popping up? So maybe you sell a variety of items, but shirts are the top item that is coming up for you. So just notice any patterns that are there, and then you can adjust your marketing accordingly. One thing that came up in a few of the business interviews we did this week, which were super fun, and we have one more coming up tomorrow. We talked to a few businesses about their unique data metrics, and something we learned was that the patterns are so revealing, and it can kind of lead in two directions, right? Either you're going to see something new that's really surprising to you and gives you a new insight on what an opportunity would be. For example, we noticed that when I spoke with an art gallerist, her prints were performing really well. So that's an opportunity. Says, hey, people are really looking for art prints. I'm going to talk more about those. Or they can be, the other thing that can happen is it can just be validating. So you can say, wow, I really have been working on this, and it seems like it's really resonating with people. So that gives you more, just the confidence to keep on going in the right direction. But back to this case study, this wellness blogger and entrepreneur was interested in starting her own line of products, but she didn't know where to focus. So she was considering everything from kitchen tools to toothpaste, right? She was like, I don't know if I should be making pots and pans or, something that's more of a bathroom product. And what we did was we analyzed her top performing blogs and found a very clear pattern: skin and hair care. And the funny thing with this project was that she came to us and she said, there is no pattern here. If there's no rhyme or reason, I just write a blog, and sometimes it does well and sometimes it doesn't. But that's very often, that's very rarely the case, that there is zero pattern. So if you actually take the time to dig through and look, the pattern will emerge. And she now has a successful line of hair products. But you can imagine something like a new product development here. That's a big investment in time and money. If she had made a pots and pans line, it would have flopped because that's not what people wanted from her. So taking that step to understand your audience before a large initiative like a new product launch is a really important thing to do, and you can see, those two paths, hair care versus pots and pans, that takes her business on a different trajectory, and she did the right path for her. So that worked out. So the way we did it was we identified and categorized her top performing content. And then as a result, she heard what her customers were most interested in. She identified new products to launch, as well as the messaging that would best accompany them. And she successfully launched the new line. The other thing, the second category that I want to focus on today is the sales pattern. So all of these numbers really tell you what your customers want and when they want it. So this is an example of, sales patterns are the actual behaviors that your customers are doing in terms of engaging in your business. The first thing to look at is whether or not you can name your number one selling product or service. It's surprising to me how many times I'll start working with a client and they don't know what their number one selling product is. There are a lot of reasons for that. Maybe you sell like 100 different products and it's just like hard to keep track, or you don't have the right inventory system, and that's fine. It's not a bad thing, but it is a question that's worth asking, because it can be really revealing, and it can also sort of pressure test your assumptions that you have about your customers. And I have a great example case study for this one in a second. The other question to think about is, after you identify your first best-selling item, what are the second and third best-selling items? And what kind of story does that tell about your business and what people want from you? It's worth looking both at dollar amounts, so total revenue versus total units, because if you have lower priced items that are, maybe they're making up less revenue, but maybe they are a really important engine in your company because of the volume that you're selling. Another thing to look at is seasonality. So right now we're in the holiday season. This is often a make or break season for companies. It can be really exciting. It can be really stressful. But knowing whether or not this is a big season for your company is critical, right? You need to know whether you have to communicate, whether and how you have to communicate with your audience during this time of year. You need to know operational things like how you need to staff up. And so the more you can look at your past patterns of sales, and I recommend looking at, if you have a tool that makes it easy to do, looking back at 2 years worth of revenue sort of side by side and going month to month and seeing, is that line generally the same? Or are there some surprises that jump out? You had a big random month last June. Dig into that, see why it happened. Is it something that went well for you? If it is, how could you repeat it? Kind of asking those questions overall. And what is it telling you about what your customers want and when? So, if there is a big pop in sales that you didn't expect to happen, understanding where it came from can allow you to, let's say you had a big month in May and you're not sure if it was like grilling season or Mother's Day that was driving it. So getting into that and looking at the dates and the times, and then even asking a few customers what's going on, helps you say, okay, well, next year we're going to plan for that and do a Mother's Day campaign to kind of help put some fuel on that fire and capture this new opportunity that we have discovered within our numbers. Any questions so far? Feel free to drop them right into the chat. Awesome. Some other important metrics that I see clients working with regularly, and again, every business is going to have your own unique metrics in terms of your sales. Your average monthly revenue is a number that's worth holding in your mind. You want to know how you're tracking on your average generally. So if you're below it, you can make some moves. If you're above it, you can kind of try to figure out why that's happening and what's driving the people that are shopping. Your average order size, your percent of customers who are repeats. So this is an interesting one. So I got a question from someone I was interviewing this week of, what type of website should I have? Should I keep my website the same all the time, or should I be like re-merchandising it all the time and changing it up? And I think the answer to that and other questions like that have a lot to do with how many customers are brand new to that site. And it's just going to be new for them all the time, or they'll want to know about the newest thing, or are they repeats who just want to be able to find what they're looking for and find that favorite item? So you can see how that would affect your strategy and the layout of your site. And then another important percentage, if you have wholesale versus retail, what are the percentages of those sales within your business, and how are you kind of making the most of each of them? What are you doing with what audience that's really working? Is there anything you could maybe translate to across those two audiences, although they are probably quite different? It's just worth kind of having a handle on all of those. And this case study is another fun one in the food world. We went from thinking we were serving allergen eaters to the paleo set. So this was a meal planning app, and they were ready to get to the next level, but they weren't sure which path to take. And even though this is an app, they have tons of data in the background of their company, very techie, data savvy team. They were really out of touch with who they were selling to and even what they were selling. They weren't really, they knew how many sort of new subscriptions were coming in the door, but they weren't looking at the types of subscription. So that's where we started. We started with a simple analysis of the kind of meals people were planning. And so you could sign up for sort of an allergen specific plan. You could sign up for paleo. They added Whole30 eventually. And it turns out the wide majority were paleo eaters. And so that right there was a huge gold nugget. Here was this leadership team thinking that they were serving folks with food allergies as their main client. And it turns out they're just serving paleo eaters. And the needs and wants and the messages that are going to work for those two audiences are so different. So this was a really important thing that we learned. And so how it went was that we identified and categorized their main product sales. we came up with a few hypotheses for growth. We actually went out and interviewed a group of women in that core customer category because we didn't understand them. We needed to understand what made them tick. Again, shifting from allergy-based eaters to the paleo set is a huge difference in those two audiences. And as a result, they were able to prioritize and streamline their content production to focus on the core and focus on those paleo eaters. They identified new product features to launch and new partners to work with, and they were able to double their business in the next year, really by honing in on the right audience. That was an incredible result that we saw. So the third metric that I wanted to tell you about today is kind of blending two here because it depends on how your business is set up. So I think of this one as the FAQ, but it can also be your search bar in a way, and I'll make that make sense in a second. So people, where there are questions and people are asking you and coming to you with specific things on their mind, there is opportunity. People ask questions about things that they are interested in. So it's like, that's a hot lead right there. They're coming to you, they're raising their hand, they want to know something. And so the first step is to identify those unique FAQs. And so now I'll explain the reason why I've paired these two. If you're in an in-person brick and mortar setting, that process of discovering those numbers is going to be a pretty manual one-on-one process, talking with your staff, taking some time if you are the main face of the business to sort of just brainstorm and write down your FAQs. If you are more of an e-commerce focused business, of course, you should have an FAQ page, and that should be updated with any questions you're fielding on email or social or chat. But the search bar is sort of, I see it as a proxy for an in-person experience FAQ, because that's where people go to first usually try to answer their questions themselves on your site or look for particular items. So this one is so fun. If you have a product-based business and you've never looked at your search bar terms, you can look at that on Google Analytics really easily. Make the timing settings for the entire year previous, so previous 12 months or year to date. And then see what you learn. It's going to be really interesting. So that's always a fun and surprising experience. Then once you have that information in hand, you can think about how you can be more proactive around that topic. So if people are asking about, how you make something, can you show a little peek behind the scenes? Can you tell a story about how you learn to do what you do if people are trying to learn all about you? Or can you train your staff based on the FAQs to steer folks towards an upsell? So maybe people are asking for, or maybe they're asking for items that you don't have. Maybe they're walking in and you mostly sell, if we go back to our example of the vintage shop, you're mostly selling, apparel, but folks are asking you, where can I buy accessories in town? I mean, that is a pretty obvious one. That's an opportunity to get a little table full of accessories, and just be prepared for that little upsell for folks. Any questions here so far? Awesome. Okay. And this case study was an e-commerce company that really had ideas about what they wanted to be known for, but they didn't know what people were coming to them at that point for. So this is an example of a client that was they were a one-stop shopping marketplace for parents. They were striving to be the destination for affluent parents, but unsure if the customers really thought of them that way. They kind of wanted to be thought of, soup to nuts, I need something for my kid, I want you to come here. We looked at the search bar. And after analyzing the terms and doing a little categorizing, and for this type of, I recommend you start with your top 10. If you want to go deeper, make it the top 100 if you have that many search terms, if you have that much search traffic on your site. That's what we did for this client. After we did that, we noticed that pretty much everyone was looking for some version of toys or apparel, whether it was a word that they're searching for or a specific brand, since this company sells other brands or something like that. So we identified and categorized those search terms. We found the pattern, and it happened to be inconsistent with the image that they were striving to portray. So this is an example where, like I was talking about before, it's usually one of two things happens when you find the insights. You're either validated and say, okay, I'm going in the right direction. I can double down on that, and that's going to be my strategy. Or you're surprised, or you find that what you hoped is not the case. And then you have the opportunity to take action to course correct and use what you learned to make some kind of a change. And so as a result, they are now really empowered to bridge that gap. They know they need to emphasize the other categories that they offer, which is furniture and gear, and really amp up the traffic to those areas of the page. Any questions at all? Awesome. So I'm curious, of those three techniques, which one are you the most excited about? Which one might you go back after this and kind of poke around your website? Maybe some of you are already doing that. And the one thing I want to point out here is that we just talked about a lot of numbers, 3 different categories. Kind of within each category, there are lots of little data points that you could go deep on. I really recommend starting with one. So decide which one is most interesting to you. Go do a little digging. Figure out how to use your Google Analytics if you don't know already. Look at your sales patterns if you never sat down and compared month by month. See what jumps out at you. I'm always looking for what is surprising. So what did you notice that you aren't you didn't think you would find? And then what is exciting to you? So what do you say, oh, that looks like an opportunity and I want to go dig into that. So Daniel says that the sales pattern is most interesting to him. And he feels like they need to focus a little bit more on what sells and what doesn't. That's great. I think that's a really smart place to start. I would say actually, number 2, if you don't feel confident in your sales pattern knowledge, I think that I would prioritize number 2, because that is just so key. And Daniel, a great exercise to take that even deeper is, there are millions of ways you can organize your sales. You can look at profitability, but a great thing to do is look at what's driving, which products drive 80, it's the 80-20 rule. You have probably heard of this. I did not invent it. Figuring out the list of products that's driving 80%, the top 80% of your revenue. So, sorry, not that it's just 80% of your revenue, the top products that are driving that. And just see what is revealed. It's probably going to be fewer products than you think. And so, that can help you cut products that just aren't doing well. You have a food-based business, so that can be very expensive to keep, investing the labor, the ingredient cost into products that actually aren't moving. So it's a really good audit to do each year. And then Lee's asking, what is the best way to get better at Google Analytics? And is there a class you'd recommend? So I would not say that I personally am a Google Analytics expert. I have like my main metrics that I know that to look at. There are a million resources. I think Google Analytics itself is the best place to start. And then we actually have a little, we did share a link to a video in one of I think it's the confirmation email for this training that can help you get it set up. But I would start on Google itself and just kind of read through their blogs and their recommendations. That's a good place to start. I hope that helps, Lee. We'll certainly take a little peek at that after this session and see if we can find any more recommended resources and share those with when we share the replay. Awesome. Okay. So there are a lot of reasons everybody might have come today. A lot is going on in the world. A lot is going on in our businesses. It might be that you're just tired of relying on your gut instinct and your educated guesses, and you're really ready to serve your customers with messages that are based on facts. Perhaps you have a sneaky feeling that there's this potential for more, but you know you need support to get there. And maybe you realize your customers do really have gold nuggets to share, but you need a step-by-step system for reaching out and collecting them. And you might just be sick of having a case of the shoulds when it comes to using your numbers. I think it was Elizabeth earlier who said that, um, you know, it takes time to dive in and analyze your data. It's there, you should be using it, it could be impactful, but you just don't ever get around to it. I'm curious if anyone can relate to these issues. Awesome. Okay, so whatever the reason, that brought you here today, we can definitely help. I want to say that whichever path you choose, and I'm about to share a few of your options here. The good news is you don't have to do a thing until 2022. So I just want to get that out there right off the bat. It's not a time of year where I recommend starting any projects that based on your customers. It's the time of year where you have data sort of coming in the door and you can wait to analyze it. It's there. Certainly there are always improvements you could be making to set up new systems, but any business that is in operation has what it needs for now. And then you can just build from there. So your first path is to kind of make a date with your numbers in the new year. Use what we've learned today to uncover insights and take action. So if you choose that path, I recommend literally putting it on the calendar for sometime in January, scheduling yourself a session, or maybe you want to do it in between that, holiday, New Year's time when it gets really quiet. In my house, that would not work because my children would be interrupting me all of the time. But whatever floats your boat, you find your quiet time and really make a date with your numbers. If you have a business partner, bring them into it as well. And you can do a lot with doing that either once a quarter, once a month, whatever rhythm really works well for your business. Or you can choose option B and get support, guidance, and accountability from the professionals, or let us do it for you. I think everybody probably has an option there that suits them best. And I'm going to talk a little bit about option B, obviously, because that's where we come in. So Dave, I'm going to ask you to share our link to the unlocking page in the chat, please, so folks can take a peek at that. So this is our program, our kind of answer to option B to help support folks on this journey is unlocking your audience. It's our 6-week customer research program that's designed to help level up your business. And you can apply at the link in the chat box, which I will drop right up. Here it is. There you go. Thanks, Dave. Awesome. We're really passionate about the fact that it's time for entrepreneurs to have access to these techniques that we bring to so many of our more corporate clients. And I'm on a mission to make it so that you can stop guessing and start knowing without shelling out for a 5 or 6-figure price tag. That's just not realistic for a lot of businesses that are smaller and more mom and pop style. So unlocking your audience is designed to serve that need and just to provide you with fast, reliable information about your audience and your customers. The thing I love about this program is that you have tangible, actionable insights after each of the 3 steps, which I'll cover in a second. Megan says, working with Becca made finding new growth opportunities in my business feel fun, easy, and exciting. And she was able to implement improvements quickly and saw results within a week of each session. So we're really diving into what's happening in your business at the moment. This isn't like a school exercise here, right? This is real life, and we need to be helping with the actual issues that you're facing on a day-to-day level. Emily from Real Plans, who we talked about a little bit ago, shares her story. Becca helped us to develop and understand our core customer profile and really use it to improve our marketing strategies and fuel growth. After doing this work, she found that the revenue and profitability grew exponentially and continues, and she highly recommends the process. So the details of the program come in 3 steps. In step 1, we ask questions. And this zone is kind of where we focused a lot today, right? These 3 areas that we were talking about with our numbers. A lot of that process involves kind of making that list of what numbers we're going to look at. And then we also talked about how you can start getting the answers today. What is in addition to what we covered today within the unlocking program is another step of getting out there and talking to your actual customers and asking them questions in real life with a survey. So that's also included here. So this 3-step system is the exact system I've used for over a decade to bring clients clarity, efficiency, and financial growth. It's a really nice blend of data analysis combined with the simple act of talking to real humans that gives you insights you can trust, knowledge that frees you to make important decisions with ease, and a marketing plan that really unlocks your growth. So what's included in the program, we start out with a pre-work questionnaire to define your business challenge. Then we head into 3 60-minute video calls, 1 for each phase. And I should note, this is a one-on-one experience. There are a lot of great online courses out there. This is not a course. This is not a group experience. The reason we do that is because customer analytics are just really unique to each business. And also, it can require a lot of thinking and discussion to really deal with some of the assumptions that you might have about your audience. And we find that just doesn't work in a group setting. So we prefer to work one-on-one with our clients. And we also just really like to have that one-on-one engagement. So after, along with this, as a part of the 3 calls, you get a business assessment where we review the sales data, Google Analytics, and your unique metrics. So a lot of the things, the 3 areas that we talk about today, we analyze all of those for you in addition to some others. And we also talk with you about whatever your unique metrics are. So if you say, I always look at this number, we'll look at that over some time and see what we learn. You get a custom survey and analysis that's designed to really draw out insights and new ideas from your customers. You know, your people and your audience have a lot of great ideas that you can learn from. In step 3, we take it all that we've learned, the questions, the answers, and we put it all together into action. So we create a marketing strategy and action plan for translating your insights into tactics that allow you to reach your business goals. So, you know, you can just imagine how great it feels to go from basing your marketing strategy on educated guesses about what your customers want to a plan that's really based on facts. And being overwhelmed by all the types of people you think you need to serve, to then serving just the right ones and being okay with others not being the right ones. From not knowing whether your approach is going to work to being confident that your marketing approach is rooted in data and the real life needs of your customers. And going from feeling exhausted from putting tons of effort and hours into launches that maybe fall flat to being focused, productive, and able to give your team clear direction on what really works. I'm curious to hear if anybody is experiencing any of these issues. Yeah. So there's no more wondering what might have happened if you got in touch with your customers, because you're going to get out there and do it. It's really time to harness the power of your audience and reach the next level of your company's potential. And again, that link is right there in the chat box. I'm going to repaste it in case anybody lost that message. There we go. So this program works really well for many companies. It's also not the right fit if you are in certain situations, which I will explain here. So it works amazingly if you're an entrepreneur or a marketing leader in a product-based business that's ready for a proven method to propel your results. So when I say product-based, this can be a digital product, you can be a brick and mortar, you can be strictly e-commerce, you can be retail, wholesale. There are a lot of shapes and sizes to product-based businesses. It works best for this type of business, although I certainly have worked with service-based businesses, just because product-based businesses tend to have a higher volume of customers. So that gives us a pool to pull from and analyze. It's also great if you feel like you're kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall when you're prioritizing your marketing efforts or creating content and you want a compass to guide you. It really works best if you've been in operation for at least 12 months with annual sales between 75,000 and 750,000. If you're newer to business, again, I love working with new businesses too, but this particular program, we need a list to pull from to dig into the numbers. So if you haven't been in operation for about 12 months, it's rare that you would have a list, an email list in at least 3 figures large, we say, which is over 100. So yeah, I've certainly sent out successful surveys to, an audience of about 30 and learned a lot, but the more you have in that department, the better. And the more we'll learn, the more you'll get out of your investment. Speaking of investment, obviously cost is an important thing to discuss in any marketing program that you're going to sign up for. So just to give you a little context, hiring me and my team to design and lead a custom research and strategy program on the corporate side typically costs anywhere between $15,000 and $50,000. So earlier this week, we sent out a big proposal that was about $38K. This is quite different. Unlocking your audience provides and leads to equivalent results for $5,400. So we're able to do that because we have this system that's repeatable and proven that we can bring right to your company. But for today, we have a special offer to lock in one of our 5 spots for January at just 50% off. And so you might be wondering, why am I offering this at such a low price? The reason is I really love to start January with kind of a little pile of projects, clients ready to go, just starting out the year fresh with exciting things to dive into. So in the interest of that, we are bringing this to you at this special price of $2,700. You can also start for just $799. We have a payment plan of 4 installments of that. So you do save a good chunk of change when you pay in full. And this is at the end of the year, so this is a great opportunity to get one more tax write-off in 2021 and then start the program in 2022. Applications will be due by next Tuesday, and you'll get some reminders in your email about that. A note on ROI, since we're talking costs, we have Perry here from Nicely Noted, which is an amazing stationery company. If you're not familiar, go check it out. She shared that before we wrapped our last session, unlocking had nearly paid for itself. And this is a goal, whether it's a $50,000 project or a $2,000 project. I go into every client engagement with the goal of paying for our work, ideally by the time the engagement is over, but then obviously you keep reaping the benefits of working together, usually for years to come. And so ROI, figuring out how we're going to get to that ROI is a discussion that we have together. Oh, no problem, Dave. Sorry, Daniel. Thank you for coming. Awesome. And then when you pay in full, you also get a 4th 60-minute implementation section as a bonus, where we'll review and give you feedback on your marketing materials. We check in on your numbers, recommend tweaks to your application, your action plan. And when you pay in full, you also save $496. So next steps to applying for the program, you just head to the link in the chat to go to the landing page and apply. Then you will be taken to a quick 3-minute application to see if we're a good fit. And if we are a good fit, we send you a quick email to book a call to answer all your questions and really review the details of the program with you. When you're ready to enroll, you head to the payment page after we have that live conversation on a Zoom call, and you choose your payment plan. So I'm really excited to see some of you in there with us in the Unlocking Your Audience program. We are really proud of this program and the results that we've gotten. We are excited to be able to offer it at such a reasonable price this month only, and look forward to seeing those applications roll in. And now I'm going to pause for some live Q&A. As promised, I know we have a few minutes left to dive into that. So I will stop sharing my screen so we can answer any questions. So please answer any question or paste any questions that you have about unlocking or your business specifically. I'm happy to do a little mini consult for anyone that's joining us today. Let's see. I know we had a few questions as we got started. So we had one question about how to use your contacts to better engage with customers. And one way to do that, to figure out what the best way and language to engage your customers effectively is to just look back at some of your best performing content. So look back over 12 months and see, what were your top 10 best performing emails? Is there a pattern among them? What were your top, again, the blog posts that we talked about in the, I think that was in step 1. Those will give you a lot of insight as well. And then your top performing social media posts, just looking at what's working already for you in your business with your customers is going to give you a good head start on seeing what types of messages resonate best. Another way to find that out is to test different messages with either a survey or Facebook ads. So if you run Facebook ads, you can test sort of different categories of messages with that, or you can send a survey and say something like, if you saw a product with the following description, which one would you be most likely to buy, or something like that. And so maybe you have like, a message that's in one direction, in the second direction, third and fourth, etc. Awesome. Well, Elizabeth and Natalie, if you have any questions that you want to pop in, I'm happy to answer them. I hope this was a helpful session for everybody. It's great to have such a good group of engaged participants here. Excellent. Well, I will wrap us up here and thank you again for joining us for Instant Insights. I hope you have a wonderful day.